What's up, YouTube? This is Too Raw for TV. I've become convinced now that Isiah Thomas is on the Clutch Sports payroll. I'm convinced of that. Even the most ardent Isiah Thomas fans have to admit now, this guy's finding every opportunity to bring up Michael Jordan in conversation and shit on him. It's becoming exceedingly annoying, and he does it to ad nauseum at this point. Like, he just won't stop. I mean, the next thing he's gonna do is he's gonna blame Michael Jordan for, inflation. He's gonna blame Michael Jordan for the drones. He's gonna blame Michael Jordan for the illegal immigration issue. Everything's Michael Jordan's fault. So, Isiah Thomas recently stated that it is Michael Jordan and the Chicago Bulls' fault that teams now and players feel compelled to shake hands after games. Okay? Much has been said about the Zeke-MJ feud. However, the most controversial part of their rivalry will always be when the Pistons walked off the court before Game 4 of the 1991 Eastern Conference Finals ended. Michael Jordan and the Chicago Bulls took offense to this and told the world that the bad boys had poor sportsmanship and were disrespectful because they did not shake their hands before leaving the court. Thomas has always disputed MJ's accusations, saying no two NBA rivals shook hands on the court after a game. Instead, he said that the losing team customarily congratulated the winners in the locker room. But Jordan refused to accept Thomas's explanation. Isiah was recently a guest on The Mark Jackson Show, and the host asked him about the walk-off incident, which many say was the precursor to the legendary point guard being Snub for the 1992 Dream Team. Thomas claimed that when his Pistons beat the Boston Celtics in the 1988 Eastern Conference Finals, Larry Bird and company did not congratulate them on the basketball court. Instead, they went to Detroit's locker room to shake hands and wish them luck against the Los Angeles Lakers. This is Isiah. Up until 1991, when the Detroit Pistons got swept by the Chicago Bulls, nobody expected a handshake. After 1991, and they said Isiah didn't shake Michael Jordan's hand, and Michael Jordan was like, "Oh, Isiah didn't shake my hand," and they were crying about not getting their hand shook. That's when everybody started after 1991 shaking hands. They went on to add, when y'all would lose in the playoffs, the losing team, after everybody left the floor, they would come into the locker room and come and shake your hand and say good luck. It wasn't a passing of the torch and everybody watching. That was such BS that they laid on me. Go find me the picture of Magic Johnson and Larry Bird shaking hands after they played each other. Well, look, I can't off the top of my head think of those two shaking hands. Okay? True. But I do remember when the Pistons dethroned the Boston Celtics in 1988. I do remember Kevin McHale giving Isiah Thomas, and I think it was Joe Dumars, but I know one of them was Isiah Thomas. He gave them a 5 on the sideline. And that's after they got eliminated. So you can miss me with that. You can miss me with that. He most definitely gave those two a high five. Not Larry Bird, but Isiah Thomas, and I think it was Joe Dumars, had a high five for Kevin McHale. Look, there have been multiple games that I can think of in the history of the NBA where after the games, I've seen players shake hands. I've seen it. I've seen Wilt Chamberlain shake hands with Bill Russell. I can't really think off the top of my head, like it's blurred because I've seen a lot of old games, but I've seen Isiah Thomas, not Isiah Thomas. I've seen Wilt Chamberlain shake Bill Russell's hand. I believe I've seen Willis Reed shake players' hands after games. If you just talk about regular season games, I've seen that before. Now, yeah, it was much more commonplace for players to leave the floor and then do all of that in the locker room. He's right about that, okay? But that's not even really the point here. The point is that the Bad Boys had it in personally for the Chicago Bulls. This was more than just, oh, this is a custom, we're going to do this behind the scenes, etc., etc. That was intended by Isiah Thomas to snub the Bulls. That was pre-planned. They were not going to give the Bulls the satisfaction of congratulating them on beating them. Like bullies, when their bully was beaten, he cut and ran. He didn't want to acknowledge that Michael Jordan and the Bulls got the best of him. And asked Isiah Thomas if he welcomed and acknowledged the custom and congratulated the Bulls behind the scenes. He didn't do that. So he can try to weasel and manipulate and con a bunch of young people. Oh yeah, see, yeah, he right. There's a reason why Isiah Thomas wasn't on that dream team. And it was not just Michael Jordan. It wasn't just Michael Jordan. Nobody wanted him on that team. I would say, to be honest with you, the only person that probably had a neutral opinion on it was probably Christian Laettner. And that's because he wasn't even in the NBA yet. For the most part, everybody. There's can't remember what year it was. It was some years ago. Might have been 7, 8 years ago. Might have been 5 years ago, but it was some years ago. Scottie Pippen and Clyde Drexler, who were on the 1992 Dream Team, were on a radio program. I don't think it was a podcast per se. I think it might have been a radio program. And they were asked about Isiah Thomas being on the 1992 Dream Team, and they both said, nah, we didn't want him on the team. Karl Malone didn't like him. We saw what Karl Malone did to his ass, right? They didn't like him. Okay? John Stockton didn't like him. Charles Barkley didn't particularly care for him. Look, it's one thing to respect the player's skills, but to like him or want to play with him, no. Him not being on the 1992 Dream Team was chickens coming home to roost for him. And it pains him. It pained him. It scarred him not being on that team. And ever since then, over the past 32 years, he's done everything he could, everything he can to try to cement or not cement, excuse me, to reestablish, you know what I'm saying, his greatness. He's been trying so hard. He's almost like he's the closest thing to Richard Nixon. You know, Richard Nixon spent the last 20 years of his life trying to, you know, untaint his tarnished image. That's what Isiah Thomas has been trying to do for the past 30 years. And he's trying to, as much as possible, change history. He's trying to brainwash a lot of young people, and he's trying to reinvent history. But we were there. We were there. And it's a reason why Magic Johnson didn't speak to you for 25 years. It's a reason why when you limped out the NBA in 1994, your status as an all-time great was tarnished. And you were not seen as on the same level as Magic, Bird, and it especially pained him that Michael Jordan was now seen not only as greater than him, but he was beloved. Jordan was a damn near a god in Chicago, whereas Isiah Thomas, who's from Chicago, was despised. It pissed him off that had happened to him. So at the end of the day, it's just another attempt at revisionism for Isiah Thomas, by Isiah Thomas, to lead people to thinking that, oh, Michael Jordan, he's made the game softer. That's basically what he's trying to do, which is ridiculous. Jordan and the Bulls were about sportsmanship, which is anathema to Isiah Thomas and those Pistons for the most part. By the way, I also want to say this too. There were some Pistons that did shake the Bulls' hands. I believe one of them was Joe Dumars. So it wasn't all of them. It was Isiah Thomas. He's the culprit. Now, people say the Bulls cried and all that, cried and whined. It wasn't that they were whining about, you know, oh, the Pistons, why won't they shake our hands, blah, blah, blah. It was more about the Pistons. Think about this. The Pistons came up with a scheme to try to stop one guy. And that scheme involved tactics that could have, and I think Sports and Fitness Ranch touched on this. These tactics, these roughhouse tactics, could have injured Michael Jordan to the point where his career would have been in jeopardy. I mean, the things the Pistons did would not be tolerated today. Now, I'm not saying that as if that makes today's era of NBA good, but Jordan could have been seriously injured. He could have had career-ending injuries from some of the roughhouse tactics that they were implementing. And by the way, the Bulls weren't the only team that dealt with the Pistons' wrath. No, they weren't the only ones. They did some of the same. They did it more frequently to the Bulls and Jordan, but they did it to other great players: Charles Barkley, Patrick Ewing, Dominic Wilkins, all those guys. David Robinson, all those guys felt the fury of the bad boy Pistons, and nobody liked them, and everybody complained about them. So, you know, like I said before, this is just another example of Isiah Thomas whining, moping, and complaining about the same things. You know, that's all there is to it, man. You know, I mean, you got to consider the source here. Consider the source. This is the same guy that was supposedly best friend. Oh, by the way, You want to talk about somebody doing something soft? I don't remember Michael Jordan kissing a dude damn near on the mouth before games. You talking about a handshake after the game, brother? You was mooching Magic damn near on the lips before games. So, what are we talking about here? What are we talking about here? Got nothing to do. This is bull. They ain't got nothing to do what you talking about, bro. This is just another way for you to slander Michael Jordan's name. Come on, man. Man, that's all I got to say about it. Tell what you guys think.